Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. Today, very grateful to be joined by Dr. Trish Leigh. Dr. Trish Leigh, Neuro Coach and author of Mind Over Explicit Matter. So, Trish, welcome to the platform. A lot of my
Yeah,
listeners
thanks.
listen to
Thanks for having me.
Adrian's. A lot of my listeners listen to Adrian's show, so a few of them will know who you are. But if not, please, just go through a bit about your story and how you got
Yeah,
to where you are, and then we'll have a chat about all the things.
yeah, yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah.
I am a cognitive neuroscientist. I joke that my life happens in 7-year chapters. So, I my education's varied every 7 years, new degrees, new disciplines, those types of things. I have had a brick and mortar practice in my town in the past with my husband. I offer brain based therapy. I can see how people's brains perform, and then I can use technology to help them improve their brain performance. But about a decade ago, during one of those 7-year shifts, I found out that someone that I know and care about was addicted to porn, and it transformed my life. I couldn't let it go the minute I figured it out. I pivoted not only all of my work, but the vast majority of my life into helping people with screen addictions. I'm working on my next book that is about the algorithm in and of itself. So that's exciting. But so now I am on a mission to help people increase their awareness about their screen based habits, especially those that include explicit matter. And I'm trying to help the world one brain at a time. Relationships are my real motivating factor, not necessarily screens, because I believe and science supports that our relationships are really being damaged and destroyed by all that's happening. And I have 5 beautiful children myself. So I've been married to my husband for over 23 years. We have 5 kids, and I have a bonus son too. So, family is important to me.
I love that. That's really awesome. So there's a lot to dive into there. For
Yep.
me, I'm just gonna, a lot of people know my story there. Like I'm a recovered sort of, I wouldn't say I was an addict to porn, but I was
Hmm.
definitely had the habit, and I was exposed to
Hmm.
that content like 8 years old. And a lot of our young kids today are exposed to it a lot younger given what's going on. So with that being said, like, how can one overcome this addiction or just this habit?
Yeah, I'm with you on I don't love using the word addiction. I use it sparingly and I always qualify it. Uh, but I also would never call porn use a habit because it's much, much, much more than that. So I tend to use the word compulsion
Yeah, love
because
that.
we know that, yeah, porn use falls into a category in the International Classification of Diseases called the ICD. It falls into a category of compulsive sexual behavioral disorder, basically. So you keep going back to hypersexual behaviors. So it's more than just a habit. It's a
Mhm.
compulsion, which means you have to go back to feel some sense of normal. And that exists on a continuum or a spectrum. So it's definitely not black and white, but it's difficult for people to say, I have an addiction. That's really difficult for people to admit to themselves. And I already told you, I'm trying to create awareness. So if you consume porn, you have more than a habit. If you feel urges and cravings, that's a need, it's a
Mhm.
dependency. I don't want people dependent on porn.
Yeah, that's fair. And for me, it was definitely a compulsion because it got to like 2019, 2020, started the awakening journey and the spiritual journey, but it was like those urges and that was still there. So it was definitely, I can definitely see how that can then be. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's the exposure of it from such a young age too. Like I was just so used to doing that every morning and every night. Like we all get
Yep.
our urges, and that was where my energy was going, I guess you could say. And yeah, in the last
Yeah,
probably
absolutely.
12 months, I've really dialed in and got that out of my life. It's a
Yeah.
tricky
Yeah. I
process.
mean, it is a tricky process. And that's what I help people do using advanced technology because it's a lot more simple when you have, the tech and neuroscience on your side. But you can use your mind and your body.
Mm,
The idea is you're rewiring your brain through consistently reprogramming your thoughts and your actions. But that's very difficult for many people to do with
Correct.
a distorted thought system and behaviors that keep leading them back. But, it's imperative. And,
Mm,
you're an example of that. You're a young person with your whole life in front of you. With porn in your life, the trajectory is completely different than without it in your life.
100%.
I work with tens of thousands of clients. A thing that people say to me all the time is they wish they knew back when they were young because they would have, pushed the envelope on quitting, not convincing themselves. Because as you get older and older and older, I always joke, half joke, I guess, scientifically joke, that there's no such thing as a horizontal spiral. You're either in an upward spiral or a downward spiral. In neuroscience terms, they're called feedback loops. So, like, as you get older with porn in your life, you are in the quintessential downward spiral.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, because I know that when I had extended periods off it, that my life was getting better. Then I'd go back,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was like a shit show again.
Exactly. I know. And then you wonder yourself. I actually had this thought a couple weeks ago. You wonder to yourself, how do I get back here? But
Yeah.
that is the literal essence of these feedback loops. Because the reason I was thinking about it a couple weeks ago is like I work too much and I mommed too much. I'm always at risk of both those things or the combination of them. So then I didn't work out. Then I was grabbing more food, not making full meals at home. Then you want to just have a glass of wine at the end of the night because there was no workout, no healthy food, no movement, no
True.
connection. You know what I mean? So I'm like, but thankfully for me, I'm like 2 days in and I'm like, I've got to stop this because this is the beginning of a downward spiral.
Mm.
So then I force myself to decrease my schedule the next day, make sure I make time to make food, make sure I work out, and then I'm back in the upward spiral.
Yeah, that's literally the
But
same here with
most people
keto.
don't do that.
Correct. Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
thing too. So what technology, so if someone came to you, what technology would you use on them to help them rewire that rather than do it, through the way I've done it? What do you use
Yeah.
and how does that help someone?
It's totally awesome.
Yeah.
People historically have thought that I invented it, but it's been around the tech because I am so excited about it. People think I'm pumping like my own technology. And that's why I want people to know, like, I've been using this technology for a long time. And actually, the story is I was a university professor for a long time. And in my work, in my work at the university, I was exploring and researching all different types of neurotherapies. So then I bought them all for my practice with my husband. And what I wanted to share about that is that I left the practice with my husband, and now everything I do is online. So I work with people all over the world, in all corners of the world. But I whittled it down to the thing that I do now. So I stopped doing all the other things and I use only the technology that I use. It's called neurofeedback, but in the way that I do it, it's highly specialized. And, I do get a lot of people who tried it with somebody else and then they come to work with me because I've basically developed these customized protocols after doing research on the brain function pattern. That is the way I talk about it is the brain becomes miswired by explicit content.
Mm,
The reward pathways are wired in an overactive way. The prefrontal cortex, which is designed for control and impulse reduction and judgment, it's the captain basically of the ship. It goes offline. So this circuitry is changed. It's miswired by porn use back to high levels of dopamine from the screen. So the first step when I work with a person is called a QEEG brain map. I can see that miswiring and I can share that with any given person. Everybody's brain map's different. It's kind of like a thumbprint or a fingerprint, but they all look similar. And I've identified two main brain miswiring patterns that are in there for people who are addicted to pornography and those who have porn induced erectile dysfunction. I call the
mm.
first one strained brain and I call the second one drained brain.
Yeah, 100%. So with the drain brain, like there's a lot of young men out there that just think it's normal to you know
Yeah.
30 seconds and then not get the full Monty of the
Yeah.
hardness. So like,
D-
how can that
yeah.
really help?
They're
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? Young men, they're panicking. On the inside, they're panicking. I and if you're not panicking yet, there's probably a day you will. And if you are panicking, please call me because what I didn't, I'll go into that in a second. What I didn't tell you is after I map a person's brain, the same technology can be used to rewire the brain. It's a workout for the brain where the person doesn't have to do anything. It's at the brain level. That's what's so cool about it because, like we were talking about, you used your mind and your body and you give yourself feedback to break the feedback loop. What neurofeedback does is it gives the brain feedback on when it's using the ideal pattern versus when it's using the pattern that needs high levels of dopamine, going back to those reinforcement loops. I tell people, if you want to get big biceps, like, do you have to talk to 30 people about how you get big biceps? No. You need to get a rack of weights. You need to start cranking some 20-pound bicep curls. When that's easy for you, you have to switch it out 25-pound weights, switch it out 30-pound weights. That's how neurofeedback works. It strengthens your brain and it keeps you moving forward. But the thing I was going to say about, men panicking is I am in a unique position where I've talked to tens of thousands of people who tell me things they've never told anybody else.
Yeah.
And in those moments, I actually just got done talking to someone who was telling me that he was on a date and there's a gorgeous woman in front of him and he has to go to the real in his mind and he has to self-stimulate himself because he can't even remotely get enough of an erection to pretend to be with her. And he's like, what happens to people like me? I'm like, they end up getting hopeless because they're afraid, and that fear, that performance anxiety basically locks in the sexual arousal dysfunction. I call it SAD, 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 because it really is putting people in a very difficult position. So, you might convince yourself it's the new norm, but it does not have to be that way. Scientifically, science shows that erectile dysfunction is skyrocketing in young men in particular because of dopamine desensitization from explicit matter.
Yeah. I love all this stuff. I'm not really sciencey, but like it'd be good for a young man to, because, for me, it took a fair amount of time to be like rewiring that part of my mind, and it's still an ongoing process now. So for someone, it's 2 or 3 years. Like, what's the timeline with this technology?
Yeah, I don't even want to tell you. But my program is a 6-month program,
Gotcha.
and the reason I don't want to tell you is because I do want to tell you. Obviously,
Oh.
so many people struggle. So many people struggle forever, and they think that it can't be helped. I've talked to so many men who have resigned themselves to just continuing to use porn because they won't ever be able to be with a woman. I'm like, that is literal nonsense.
Yeah.
One thing that's very important to tell you is all my work is measurable. Every single person that I work with, I have a lot of graphs and charts of the brain performance pattern. I can watch it change over time. There's multiple variables that are important, and I'm happy to share them with you,
Yep.
but I can watch those variables change. The person gets to watch those variables change. So typically what happens is I tell people in the first 30 days, don't try to do anything different. Just do the sessions. Just do the workouts. Like if you want to lift something super heavy, you don't keep trying to lift that heavy thing. You just start cranking the weights so that you are stronger. Then you can go lift that heavy thing. That's how I approach it. 30 days, just get as many workouts in as you can. Then 30 days later, naturally, it's a lot easier. It's much more simple. That's when I have people engage in the digital program that I've put together. It's 94 lessons. So basically, every lesson is a puzzle piece that needs to be explored and resolved on top of rewiring the brain. So we don't approach that until month 2. Typically between months 2 and 4, significant rewiring is happening. I think of month 1 as the unwiring process. Month 1, unwiring that need for dopamine and kind of unlocking those reinforcement loops. Month 2, 3, and 4, we're really settling into rewiring. Moving into months 5 and 6, that's the beginning of hardwiring because I'm looking, hopefully, to see 3 months of a stable, healthy brain pattern. And for the most part, that's what I'm able to help people accomplish.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm just going to play devil's advocate here because you'll probably get these comments all the time. So I'm going to ask the
Let's do
question.
it.
Well, it's pretty simple, like some people will say, "Oh, Dr. Trish's thing is just a cheat code for not doing the work." Are your clients doing any form of work here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At the beginning, the sessions are 30 minutes. Most of the clients that I work with, they are very motivated to solve
Yeah,
erectile dysfunction. So they will do 2 sessions. I make a recommendation based on the brain map. I can see if a brain is slightly dysregulated. Most people I work with, it's significantly dysregulated. More dysregulation, kind of more of the workouts you can do.
yeah,
So at the beginning, we want them just to do the brain workouts. But if you are going to find an hour in each of your days, that's a pretty big commitment for people up front. So that's why I don't want them to max out. We need to do the sessions. But then something interesting does happen. And I tell people, as we begin to work together, that we're rewiring your brain, but we're skill building here.
yeah,
So in those months, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's when we're building the skills. The faster a person can, rewire their brain, but the faster they can build the skills, that's where the magic happens. A cool thing that I can do, though, based on the data that I see, is I can make recommendations of coaching strategies that a person can use based on what I see in their brain. So it goes like this. It's so cool. Where I'll say, I see a stress spike, last Tuesday, and I see a dopamine spike last Wednesday. What's going on? And, I'm trying to think. I don't have any interesting. It's only Monday and coming off the long Thanksgiving weekend. I don't have any.
true.
It's Thanksgiving in the States. So, but, a person will say, my mother-in-law is in town. And,
No.
then I had urges the next day. Or it'll be, I was on a deadline for my project. It's generally early on, it's stress spikes, dopamine spikes. So it's stress and then urges. But that allows me to go, okay, if you have a project deadline, let's introduce this new strategy. Those are the skills. Those are the skills.
Yeah.
Actually, I have one interesting thing that I'm thinking of from an older gentleman who is divorced and he's on the dating scene. So he's like, in my religion, we're not supposed to talk about sex. And I said, we've been talking about sex for 30 minutes. What are you talking about? And I joked with him because I'm like, but the way we're talking about it is respectful and it's about intimacy. We're not doing anything that is crossing over that religious bounds. I'm like, if you are dating people, it's okay to talk about how, emotional and physical intimacy is important to you. I
Yeah.
mean, like, that's not crossing over into like, what's your favorite positions and how many hours a day do you want to have sex? And he's like, oh, so I'm like, when you're dating, approach it that way. That's a way to assuage his fears around, being incongruent with his religion, but helping him to find a healthy partner who he is going to, be able to achieve long term, not just satisfaction and pleasure, but happiness too. Round it out.
100%. I love that. And you also said too, so does dopamine on the brain level, does that trigger the urges in most cases? Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I can see it. And I can see when people have slips or relapses. I can see if stress is building over time. But more importantly than me seeing it is I teach people about what their brain is doing, connecting it to how they feel in their mind and body, connecting that to their life.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for people to make those connections, especially early on. And we know this scientifically. Self awareness is very low when the brain is caught in this dopamine dependency mode. So, as we do all these things simultaneously, like that's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
It's getting the brain in a healthier mode, then building skills, which continues to help the brain get healthier. Building the skills becomes easier. Having feedback from an emotionally healthy person. When people join my program, I work with them. Jamie, who is also, she's a certified coach. She helps people, and the lead coach on my program is Zach Carter. He's recovered from his own porn addiction, and he's a licensed counselor. So you've got like a team of people helping you think about your situation in a way you probably never could.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because a lot of our young people today, like they're spending like the screen time is ridiculous. I'm just gonna come out and say it.
It's it is really I firmly believe this is, at catastrophic levels, but
Yep.
nobody everybody, it's like that story about the fish where, the fish is in the water and swimming, and another fish comes on the rim of the fishbowl and he goes, "How's the water?" And the fish inside goes, "What's water?"
Yeah.
Like everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid, so nobody's questioning if this, very few people are saying this is got to end, because there's only two ways I see that it can play out: is catastrophically for individuals, families, societies, productivity, or enough people are going to wake up and realize, and I think it's already happening. So I'm very hopeful for the second one, where it's like, okay, this is getting out of control. We're living our lives online, and it's passive. It's not intentional. Like it's different than my one son, Seamus. He games all the time, gamers got a game or whatever, but he is always on with a big group of friends. He's on with my other son, which I think is so cool because they're at two different colleges, yet they have a tight relationship. And then they all get off and they go eat and they go play basketball and pickleball and all that. Like, that's balance use, and the screen time's used for community, not for just passively scrolling whatever content the algorithm throws in front of you that is hooking you in.
Yeah, that's the next layer to this. Like you got the algorithm book coming out. So for someone out there, like for me, I was getting, as you can probably tell, in the last 8 years, I was getting all the beautiful girls on Instagram. So that was like the thirst trap over to the porn. What's the go with the algorithm? Because I believe that the phone's listening to everything that we're saying, so it's just going to feed that algorithm.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, that's why people have to really take control of it. They
correct. And how do they
have to
do
take
that?
control. And when you're deep in, it's very difficult. So, the way you do it, and it's different for all people,
Yeah.
but if you can, and this is a big if you can curate your feed, get rid of everything that is pulling you in a direction that you don't want to go. And I'll revisit that in a second, but clean it all up. Take a washout period if you have to. If you can't just be in your feed and have a little fun in there, connect with people, fill your feeds with people who motivate you, versions of what you want to create in your life. The thing I wanted to revisit is, every single action that we take, it leads us toward our goal or away. It goes back to, there's no horizontal spiral. Everything you do, you're either going toward or away. So when you're on social media, like what you're taking into your mind, which is affecting your brain, is it leading you toward your goal or away? And if it's just Instagram models, and if you actually want a healthy relationship with a real world person, that's away.
Yeah.
So it's gotta go. It's gotta go.
So it's so simple too. And it's just asking yourself that question, like, is this directing me to where I want to go? But that's the thing though, a lot of people aren't sure where they want to go.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Like, this really goes deep, and I know
It does.
People accuse me of hyperbole, but that's why I said I'm in a unique position. I have conversations with people that, like, I know how many people this is affecting and the depth. But what I was going to tell you, and I read the science too, is that sheer identity fragmentation is happening. What used to happen is we would form our identities from the inside out, and we were being influenced. Think of that word influencer. We were being influenced by our family. So our family would put different pressures on us, and that's where family systems theory and all of that, all the psychological processes come from. But now the family system is actually decreased because all the people in the family are on their phones.
Yeah.
So their identity isn't being formed from the inside out. It's now being formed by external validation. If you are a consumer on social media, we'll just leave it at that, but we can go in any direction. Like if you're giving out the hearts and the likes, you're consuming other people and you feel like you're in control by doing that. Then, and even like porn use is the easiest way to think about it, or OnlyFans, anything like that. You go on and you're taking in other people, they're objectified to you. You're the consumer. The consumed, they're doing it for the external validation. So it messes up everybody's identity formation. And we know this,
100%.
it's maladaptive. It
Yeah.
becomes very damaging for a person's purpose.
Yeah, because you've got females on one end, it's the body thing, and then for the males, it's comparing. You're just comparing yourself to like what it is that is perfect on that screen, and then it's just fucking up people's confidence.
It's
At us.
yeah, it's crazy because like I slightly feel impervious is the wrong word, but I feel strong in this because I know so much. If I go on social media, it messed me up. I literally I'm like no more. I don't go on a lot. I just go on a little to see like how I should be doing things on social media. I
Yeah.
just made this major proclamation. I'm just doing what I want, and I don't even care if anybody likes it or not. And I have this whole when you see everything change in 2026 for me, it's because I'm like, this is how I am doing it. Because this is how it's going to feel good to me to educate people in the way that I've always been passionate about. Because I got away from that, trying to do what this person does because it works for them and this other person. And it's a cluster right now.
Well,
So I'm reeling it all in. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy how that impacted me without me fully knowing, right? This
yeah.
is what I'm talking about. This is how it impacts people.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that too because we all seem to just compare ourselves to each other when we just do our own thing and take that initiative ourselves. I love what you're
Yeah,
doing there.
it's intention, right? And it's like, and I've had to do it a bunch of times in different ways because the easiest way to get people to follow you and to love you is to tell them exactly what they want to hear. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess for me, I don't take that route. I continue to show up telling people what they need to hear. So that doesn't always get the most,
That is true.
external validation. So, but that's a pretty cool way to make sure I'm still on track,
Yeah, I can relate to a
minus
lot to
the
that.
terrible social media stuff I put out.
This
Sorry about
podcast,
that.
this podcast is built on telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
that's, at the pearly gates, the way I see it is like I'm always doing the litmus test of, on my deathbed. On my deathbed, will I be glad of whatever challenge is in front of me, So will I be glad I always spoke up for, the truth? It's the truth. So that I spoke the truth to help people find their own way and to create lives that they want and they deserve. And,
yeah,
people are lonelier than ever. They're more anxious than ever. They're more depressed than ever. They have ADHD symptoms. There's interesting studies showing the trajectory of all of those things follow the trajectory of increased screen use. Like, is that a coincidence? No. It's a direct correlation.
yeah, 100%. And I was just going to ask you too. I was just going to go on an awesome lead in. Like this work, obviously, you focus a lot on the porn and stuff too. But like, can someone come to you if they have a different kind of compulsion?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
work with
yeah,
people. My before I pivoted into screens, I like my work it actually still kind of runs the gamut. I work with kids
yep.
with
Oh,
neurodevelopmental disorders. Like classically speaking, actually in my first training, I was an early interventionist working with babies and infants and toddlers. So I've always worked with kids. I work with older people that have neurodegenerative disorders like dementia and Parkinson's. I still work with people in that position. I work with people with all different types of mental and physical health issues. Yeah, my work's really cool. What people don't fully understand about all of those things is they're all brain based.
that's
There's
true.
very few things that aren't brain based. Even like if you have neuropathy in your foot, your brain controls pain. So I work with a lot of people with chronic pain, with chronic illness. So the answer is yes, for sure.
Yeah, love that because, it's not just the screens. There's so many out there and again, you're right. It's just all about rewiring that brain and it sounds like it's working very, very well.
Yeah, and the screen compiles all of those things.
That
So a
is true
person with
too.
ADHD, if now they're on the screen all the time, your ADHD is worse. We know that. That's proven scientifically. If you had anxiety, if you have vision problems, I'm starting to work with more and more vision people with vision issues. Like no surprise, right? Because if they inherently had a vision disorder or issues with their vision, now they're on a screen 6 hours, 8 hours, 14 hours a day, like the vision takes a hit. So, we have this is the first time in history where the younger generation is worse off in mental and physical health, and
Yep.
screens is the direct reason. So
Yep.
it's being seen and felt, just about in every aspect.
Yeah. Do you think it's about developing, like what your son's doing, like a healthy relationship with this thing? Because it just seems to me like it's not really going to go anywhere anytime soon, but we have the power to remove it, but we just get conditioned that we don't. But back to the
We
question is
do.
like, can we build a healthy relationship with this thing? Or is it just like we just got to get rid of it?
No, definitely.
Yeah.
But that's why I, chuckled and said this has a big if, and this is very individualized. Like I have a very healthy, relationship with my screens. I work in front of a screen most of the day. I have breaks built right in. They're in my calendar. I make myself get up and just open my focus. Even just opening your focus away from your closed focus on your screen can be really powerful. So like I have my days adjusted for all of that, and then when I leave my office, I don't go on screens.
Yeah, I
So
love that.
like I'm on them. I don't leave my office. I turn everything off. I don't go down and sit on my phone. I go down and I crank up some music and I make dinner and I chat with whoever's around. You know what I mean? Like I get IRL, in real life after spending my day on screen. So you can be really intentional. It's all about intention and it's about deciding what you want for your life and then creating that balance and then protecting it. You know how I told you we're skill building here? The biggest skill is creating a balanced life with a foundation that doesn't require high levels of dopamine from the screen. Once you build that foundation, you protect it like your life depends on it because it does.
Yeah, 100%. And how can we get natural forms of dopamine? Because a lot of people are hooked on that screen for their only form.
Yeah, and this is getting trickier than ever too, because I tell people to do an activity called dopamine determination. So
Ooh.
basically figure out what are the things, dopamine determination. I'll tell you specifically it. I think it's really cool. And I do these things myself and I continue to do them because the the essence of skills, which I remind all my clients, is once you establish them, you have to practice them all the time. These aren't one offs. Skills are things you get good at and you continue to practice and get better and better. Dopamine determination is you dump out on paper all the things that you love to do, and then you give all those things a rating of how exciting they are. Because dopamine tends to be more exciting, serotonin's more chill, like reading a book. Dopamine's like mountain climbing, right? Or like skydiving would be a very high dopamine producing activity. But you figure out what are the things that you like to do, then you make yourself do them. The gym's an easy one, or working out. A lot of people go to the gym. It's dopamine producing. It basically helps to produce all the good neurochemicals and hormones, and it helps to decrease all the ones that might be holding you back. But it's very individualized. But the reason this is becoming more difficult than ever goes back to identity fragmentation. Nobody knows.
Mm,
Nobody's tried the things. Like
no,
what I tell people is think of the things you used to do and used to love when you were little, but
love
now
this.
screen use is going down even younger, right? So, like, I think about myself because when I was young, basically we'd get the boot, like goodbye, see you at lunch. You know what I mean? And then you'd have to go find something to do.
Hmm.
And I can remember just like climbing a tree and like sitting in a tree with these kids in my neighborhood and then climbing back down. And so, like, I took my family not long ago rock climbing because that's just fun for me. And I'm like, let's do it. My daughter rides horses. I took the fam last winter. We all went horseback riding, just like on a trail ride, trying to tap into everybody's thing. But this is getting trickier. So you really have to create some silence and make sure that it's from you, not from some quote unquote influencer that likes to do that thing, because this is what's happening now. You
Yes.
see somebody and they like to do it. The more you're on another person's passive content, there's no space for you to have your own thoughts. When you create downtime and down space, it's called the default mode network. The default mode network in your brain, when it engages, you're kind of like throttling but coasting. This is when you can have ideas. When you are taking in other people's ideas, you can't have any of your own. So you have to have that time each and every day. And this exercise, dopamine determination, might be the first opportunity.
I like that. That's such good piece of free advice. So that was like my next question. You've already given it. So just to unpack some of that, I reckon that's awesome because as you said with the influencer
Well,
thing,
what would
like
be your thing? What would be your thing? What would you do? I
if I were,
box. You probably heard this on Adrian. My dopamine
yeah,
activity. What's your dopamine? My dopamine activity is, I love to box. I work out almost every day, and I have two boxing bags. They're both kind of different. So that is my way of like, and they're at home because I was going to go to the boxing club and I never made it. And then my husband actually bought me my first boxing bag after I kept saying I wanted to go back to the boxing club. It just showed up one day. And that was like, I don't know, 8 years ago. And I've been boxing almost every day since then.
look at you go. I love that. Mine, I get to the gym every morning. I often go just before sunrise, so I go pretty early, which is like 4:30, quarter to five, and yeah, that's sort of
4 a.m. club. You're part of
yeah.
the 4 a.m. club.
That's like my start to the day, right? So then during the day, I love swimming in the ocean, climbing mountains, swimming in the ocean, getting in nature, just getting in the sun too, like just like tanning and that. Like I love just that stuff. So that's what I
Definitely.
do.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
all so good for you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always work out outside.
Yes, love that.
I go out in the middle of the day and I purposely have two boxing bags. I swapped one out, not that it matters, but the one is lighter. It has a lighter base so I can roll it into I have two driveways, but this driveway behind my house, I roll it out into the sun so that I can box outside. And it's like my nature break. I live in the middle of a forest, so there's lots of nature out there, and I can work out. It's like a threefer. I usually crank up some good music, and
I love that.
so it's so important. So
It is.
important.
It is. And, we all have to move our bodies. And that's another important part of what you were saying before. Like, we're just going to keep just giving, like, we're just going to become stuck and stagnant if we don't move. Like, we're designed to move anyway. It's in our DNA.
It is. Yeah. My husband has a thing that he says basically movement is life. Yes, he didn't make that up, but he reminds people because his work's similar. He runs our practice now. He's kind of converted into regenerative medicine. So he works with more of like electrical energy and metabolic types of parameters in the body. And he's all saying it's like a river. If a river doesn't flow, it becomes stagnant and everything dies. The river has to flow. And then from my standpoint, the father of flow state, his name's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He has awesome research on flow state. And basically, like I told you, that default mode network, when you're like, you have enough calm in your brain and it's not all filled and jacked up, that's when you can enter flow state. When you're really on purpose and time flies by and you're doing a thing that you love and it feeds your soul, that's flow. And, like flow is just so important. Like
Yeah.
stagnation and sitting in front of a screen, swiping and scrolling is the complete opposite of both of those things.
Swiping and scrolling. That's my next thing is too. Like, the dating scene now is all about these dating apps.
So toxic, so
Yeah.
toxic. First of all, recent studies show that more married men are on the dating apps than unmarried men, which is problematic in and of itself.
Huh.
Most of it's just for eye candy and for the back and forth, which is called parasocial relationships, like they're transactional. I've heard lots of horror stories of how some dating app type of dating has played out, which I can share some of them if you want.
Mm.
But like the idea is that most of the people on dating apps are not emotionally intelligent. So you have to work hard to find like the one potentially healthy partner. And I do have tricks on how to do that. Like any person who's willing to roll right on over to your house or apartment and have sex with you, they're out. Right? Like that person, you can just eliminate them.
Yeah,
Right? Which that's the
that's
vast
true.
majority. Anybody who's willing to send you pictures for X amount of dollars, that person's out. Any person, like even from your own standpoint, we can do a self check here. Is that,
You want it, yeah.
on a dating app, you find one person that looks interesting and you start chatting with that person, not 12 people, not 300 people, one person. Just like if you went out, right, to a party and you walk in
That's
and you're
true.
like, oh, I see that person. They look interesting. Maybe I could build intimacy and a relationship with them. Not, oh, I see 27 women. I'm going to talk to all 27 of them and see which one I can get to go home with me.
Summing up
The approach.
my early 20s right there.
Exactly. That's why I'm bringing it up because the
Yeah.
approach matters. The second one is just a dopamine activity. That's it has nothing to do with sex, it has nothing to do with dating is the reality. It has everything with using the dating app just the same way you're using porn, same way you're using social media, same way you're using OnlyFans, anything like that, just for dopamine hits, which will keep you locked in the loop.
Because I'm in the dating scene now, so that piece of advice is great. Pick one person, do that online like you're going to do it in person, because you're not going to walk up to 27 different people in a party. You're going to look like a bit of a creep, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like think of it as a real world experience, not an online dating experience, not a dopamine experience. And actually, I was just talking to some of my kids because there was an experience that they had, and I was talking to some my girls, and these guys like they walked them home and then they thought they were just going to go, have sexual relations with them. I'm like, that's why when you meet someone, you meet them for a drink and then you meet them for lunch, old school. Then you meet him for dinner because if he's not willing to stick around for 4 or 5 dates, he's only here for dopamine, not for the
100%.
building of a relationship over time. And it goes back to the brain. It's about the delayed gratification. The way dopamine is supposed to work in a beneficial way for your life and your brain is that it's the reward after the pursuit, not just the
Yes.
reward after the decision you want the reward. It's about putting the effort in. It's about delayed gratification, not instant gratification. So anybody who can't handle a little bit of delayed gratification, they are not a healthy partner. Yet,
Mm.
hopefully they become one.
It's just going back to the old school ways of just putting in the work, because everything's so
Yeah.
instant now. Like it's what's happening in the screens happening in real life. Everything's instant. I've said this a million times on this podcast. We want things now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the culture. It really is. That's why, like, telling you that I try to do things the opposite of that. And when I
Mm.
find myself getting sucked into that, if I'm mobile ordering Starbucks and then I'm picking up food to bring home to everybody because I rushed around, I just easy buttoned the food twice. You know what I mean? I easy button food once and then I had a $7 coffee that I didn't need just to keep entertaining myself while I'm out. Food's very wrapped up in this whole dopamine system also. So I check in with myself. Am I just hitting the easy button? Amazon is, or ordering online. 'Tis the season. I heard a joke the other day. Someone said that they were at the store. You remember the store. It's totally true. We don't even have to go to stores anymore. You don't have to go out and walk around the mall to find your friend a gift. All you
Yeah.
have to do is order it and it'll be here between 6 and 10 p.m.
Yeah. Like everything's just made so easy that it's just like if you want something now, like it's the same as the screen use, the porn and the dating. It's all mixed into one. Like back in the day, there were no screens. We had to work for shit.
Yeah. It's good for you too. You
Yeah.
know, and that's probably why I can have a healthier relationship with phones because I didn't grow up with one in my pocket. I already, like, immediately I didn't need it. But, you know, I'm growing up five brains, teaching them how to keep that balance. And each one of them has a different, you know, deal with technology, but helping them each to be able to balance it. And going old school is going to pay off.
I agree.
I heard recently that like it's going to be a trend soon where like, well, actually in the school systems where I am, the kids, nobody does it, but they're supposed to put their phones in yonder pouches so that they can't access their phone. But someone was telling me that it's going to be a trend where there's restaurants where you lock your phone up before you come in because
Huh?
people want their phones locked up because they know if they have their phone with them, they will be on it. So it's like trendy to go to a restaurant where you have to lock up your phone. But that's cool because people are realizing this phone, I can't be trusted with it. You know what I mean? Let's lock these babies up so we can have a real dinner and laugh with each other. So I think that might
Mm.
be a tipping point coming,
I
hopefully.
like that. I hope we, tap into that here in Australia too, because yeah, I when I go on dates and stuff, I make a real point to just like not have it on me, turn it off. If it's on me, like turn the thing off. You know what I mean? So it's not. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have one notification on my phone. I keep it in front of me and I can see like when I'm working and all that, I keep it in front of me and I can see if any of my kids need me. And of course, we've got the universal. I was going to say my daughter violated it the other day because it wasn't important. The universal, if you call two times, that means
Ah,
there's, you know, an emergent. So if I see them call two times, then I will call them back. But I don't have email notifications, nothing, you know.
yeah.
So I check my emails, you know, once or twice a day. I'm not sitting around like waiting for emails to come in and I don't have any notifications. Your brain just gets all those hits of dopamine from every notification. They're terrible for you. And
Yeah.
it creates hypervigilance. You're like on red alert for the next thing that's going to happen, which is increasing people's anxiety and they have no clue.
Yeah, because they're thinking that no one's going to message them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well there's the fear of missing out.
Hmm.
And it's pretty interesting because I went to dinner with my friends. We did this pop-up dinner, which actually is very good for dopamine, novelty. But my one friend, it was expensive. My one friend's like, you know, I don't really want to spend the money on this, but I don't want to miss it either. But then I thought, it's not even the experience she's going to miss. It's the posting of the pictures that she doesn't want to miss out on.
Oh, true.
Interesting, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't ever do that. I'm trying to force myself to take pictures as part of my new social media strategy.
Ah, yeah.
Like, you know, and I'm like, I just don't literally don't do it. There's like, I don't, my daughter came from Brooklyn. My whole family hasn't been in the same room in years. We never took a family photo. We never
Really?
took, I'm like, that is insane. And we were just like having such a good time together. We were only together all for one night. And then most of us were here, but one of my kids left. And I'm like, I can't believe not one of us thought to take a picture. You know what I mean? Like, but we were just in the moment. So it's
Mm.
actually a beautiful thing, just enjoying each other, you know, not worrying about posting it on social media.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's something
But
that
the point is the fear of missing out isn't the experiences, it's the posting of the pictures at that experience these
that's the
days.
culture we're in now.
It is.
I walk down the beach now, you see every second young woman out there taking photos or having their boyfriend take photos of their behind. Like this is going on right now.
Oh, it's crazy. I know. I tell the story often. My one daughter, because I have three daughters, and they all, you know, use technology differently. My middle daughter, who no longer does this, you know, years ago, I I always think the universe sends me these things, you know, because I
Hmm.
don't go on social media. I open it for to look at something for work, and there's a picture of her like longingly looking into the distance at a wall. It's just a back shot of her. And I'm like, girl. So, anyways, I talked to her and I'm like, you need to stop posting these, or, you know, I have the family expectations set. She didn't stop posting them. So I took her phone away and she went totally off the rails. And I ended up having to cancel her phone number, which all of that was set up in advance. I'm like, you need to regulate yourself once you're calm again. And of course, I always help her because I'm her co-regulator as a parent. She wasn't able to, I had to cancel the phone number. And once I canceled the phone number, she knew like legitimately she was not getting that phone back. And she finally calmed down. But to this day, she thanks me for doing that
Yeah,
because
right.
she recognizes like how out of control. And if you think about why does she care so much? Because she wasn't getting those likes and the hearts that she was getting from all the guys from when she was posting it. So super unhealthy for her. And I was totally aware of that, which is why I, could double down on good parenting, even though it was a very difficult time. I talk about
Yeah,
it like it was a major win, but it was not easy for me, nor
I love
her
that.
or my family, because the rest of my family had to listen to her scream at me every day for all the days that involved. Every day she'd go off the rails screaming at me. And actually, my youngest daughter, she comments on how she's learned to regulate herself just through,
Huh?
seeing those experiences and how I stayed calm, wouldn't give in, held my boundaries, like tricky stuff, but it goes a long way if you can do it, is my point.
Yeah, because that I was just about to wrap it up, but now I've got a whole nother topic of conversation. I'm literally just gonna say like all the young girls are doing it, right? What you just did there, like, is like one in a million.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my youngest daughter would never post anything like that, which is pretty cool
So if
just to
you
watch it.
have,
Like,
do you have people like do you have people come to you that you must see it and like do you say, look, probably shouldn't be doing this? Like, do you have people come to you that say that, yeah, you know what I mean?
yeah, and I have parents of kids who are all wrapped up
Gotcha.
in this.
Yeah.
But with parents, I tell them not to. Well, they have to backstep it a lot from what I did because that experience that happened. My daughter she's going to be 21 now, so that she was probably like 16 or something like that when
Gotcha.
that
Yeah.
happened. But my point is, I had been doing the screen parenting thing for at least probably 5 years before that with her and the other kids. So like that wasn't our first interaction where I'm like, I'm going to take the phone away. I always tell the kids that my job is to keep you safe and healthy. That's my number one job as a parent, safe and healthy. And if you do something that jeopardizes your safety or your health, I will have to step in. Like these things are privileges. The two main things over time obviously became their cars and their phones, right? The kids have done some dumb stuff in their cars too. And if you do dumb stuff in your car, there's natural consequences there too. Because my one son was going 109 miles per hour. He got his
Oh,
license taken away. But like, if you can't be safe and healthy with that thing, you can't have that thing. So that's the expectation. And the expectation is if you mess up, you learn and you correct that and I will help you. But if you can't enter into that with me, then we have to take the thing out of the equation. So my point about that is when parents come to me, like for example, I work with one family where like the son is just, off the rails about needing his phone. When he had his phone, his parents had a blocker app so he couldn't do anything on his phone from school, and he would text his parents hundreds of times a day.
hmm.
And I'm like, you need to set this expectation that on the third text, he loses his phone the next day. You know what I mean? Like, these are privileges that are earned. If you can't use them well, you can't have them. Like, so don't take his phone away, set the expectation, and give him an opportunity to succeed at that. If he can't succeed, then you have to take the phone away. And he's probably going to go off the rails. But once he resets, but you do have to watch for, their safety during that time. And that's why people don't do it. That's why you see kids, it's difficult as a parent to do it. Very
Yeah.
difficult. But you have to set the stage. And I bagged family meetings. My husband loves the family meeting. I would rather talk to the kids individually. So I've told them the expectations. We agree on it. I have them agree with me so that we're all on the same page. And then if any shenanigans go down, I remind them of the agreement and what the consequences are. And it's never easy, but
Yeah, I love
You know,
that.
it
It's like
works.
the
It
old school
works. Yeah.
values too, because a lot of parents are letting their kids spend hundreds of hours a day on whatever content, posting whatever they want, and it's just like this never-ending cycle. So I love that.
Yeah, and like with Seamus, he's really good now, like I told you. But that, Seamus, he's the one who they game together. They go to Waffle House. Not that that's nutritionally deficient food, but we don't need to talk about that.
Well, it is, yes.
Then they go play, pickleball. But that happened after he's 19. That happened after 10 years of training, literally, with his computer. He loves to game, he always has. I set it up when he was young, when he first got the computer. He's playing Minecraft. I'm like, you can play for an hour, then you need to go outside. And he would argue with me, what am I going to do out there? I'm like, I don't know. But go outside and have some fun. And the rule was always when they were younger, you have to be IRL more than double what you're on. And basically they could use their computers for an hour, but then they'd have to be in real life 2 hours. That was brutal for
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
but they learned. And then everybody had to be off their computers at whatever time. Like it depended if it was summer or school. We'll just say 9 p.m. Seamus would famously not get off. And I didn't make him. I taught him to set an alarm so he could manage it himself. That's co-regulation, not me telling him. I'm like, I am not going to tell you. And you need to set an alarm. And if you do it again, you lose the privilege the next day. And some of the times he did. And then if he did it 3 days in a row, he'd lose his cord. That's what we would say.
Mm.
We would take the cord from his computer for a week.
Yeah, right.
So, like, and that's a washout period. And you know what happens. Day 1 and 2, he's miserable. Day 3, he's coming back online. Day 4, 5, 6, 7, he's totally happy. He goes back to a balanced life on day 8. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
but that's the
yeah,
system, and all the kids have learned to live within it.
yeah. I love that, and
And it's
it's
good for them. Yeah, it's good for them.
such good advice for someone like me that hasn't got any kids yet. So it's like gold for me, right?
Yeah, it's really funny because people text me, people I know, a few people have just had babies. And this one woman, she texts me, she's like, am I ruining my baby if I let her watch, a show ever? No. I'm like, but don't put her in front of a screen if she's crying because you will teach her to regulate her mood.
Ah, true.
Only let her, like what I would do with the kids would when they were really little, they would have chill time. And this was before phones and iPads really
Yeah,
but they would have chill time and they could watch Little Einsteins and they'd have 30 minutes of chill time to watch TV. But it was like part of our morning routine because if you've been playing for 2 hours, kids need a break, you know? So they would watch a little show and then I would make them go lay in their beds with books, to learn how to lay around doing nothing. Like, you're not going to ruin your child. Just don't stick a phone in her face if she's crying because she won't learn how to self soothe. She'll learn how to soothe with the phone. And that, it's about balance and it's about teaching her from a ripe young age that this is part of life, but you control it. You don't just go to it by default.
yeah. Because then it trains them to always, yeah, as you said, always go to the screen for regulation, which is not, yeah, that's not healthy at all. So I love that.
Yeah.
Trish, I thank you for all you've shared today. You've
Yeah,
actually answered
of
nearly every
course.
question I've asked you that. And it's, yeah,
Nice.
if anyone wants to find you, work with you, where can they best find you?
Yep. Okay. Well, you can find everything at drtrishleigh.com. It's Leigh. That kind of all roads lead out from there. From there, you can access my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel has over 2,000
Oh,
videos. They
wow.
all have brain hack strategies. And like I just told you, I'm super excited to go old school in the new year on my YouTube channel. I'm going old school. I'm going back to my university professor days where I'm just going to go slideshow and it
Oh,
still will be edited. Don't you worry, it'll be edited. But, I really find some of the things I've said recently, people aren't fully understanding. And I'm like, I got to get some images going here. I need to get more like tutorial really helping people to understand the depth of this with some visuals. So I'm pretty excited about that because I think it'll ramp up the value of the content, which already has value. So if you're looking for help, go to YouTube because that is a free resource. I started that channel. Last story, and then we can wrap up,
yeah,
is
you're up.
that in my, I told you how well, I don't know if I remember if I told you, but the reason I pivoted into porn addiction is because someone I cared about, I figured out they were addicted to porn. So I sat down and I made a YouTube video. I always had this other YouTube channel, which is still alive and well. But on a separate channel, I made a video, and all I say in it is don't watch porn. It damages your brain, which became a meme on TikTok later on. But it said nothing scientific. But a cool thing that happened is all these people showed up. They're like, can you make more content? And I'm like, yeah, I guess that didn't say anything, but sure. So I started making consistent content for all of those first followers. That's how the channel started, which then I created the program and pivoted my work because I'm like, people want this. I had to sit here going, am I going to talk about porn on the internet? And then I'm like, yeah, I am, because this is how I can make the most impact. So that channel has always been really important to me because it's like the first lifeline to help people understand. So if you're looking for help, that's a really good starting point.
Love that. We'll put the links to everything in the bottom so that people can just click on it and go straight to it. Trish, I really appreciate you and your time. I'd love to get
Yeah,
you
no
back on
problem.
next year and delve into some more
Yeah.
topics. We've sort of just touched the surface on a lot of things, so
Yes, we have. So
I have to circle
definitely, let's
back.
plan it.
All right,
Yeah,
sounds
sounds
good.
great.
Righto, thank you
Yep.
everyone for listening and
Okay.
watching. Talk
Thanks.
to you all soon.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye.